This is discussion number 3, productivity graphs and opportunity costs for chapter 1, What is Economics? I'd like you to think back to discussion number 1 when we talked about two very important terms, insatiability and scarcity. The idea of scarcity means that there's only a limited amount of resources, goods, and services available. But also remember that that scarcity is also applied to you. You only have so much time. You only have so many resources. You only have so much effort available in order to secure something for yourself. And so we are left with the idea that you have to make a decision. And when you decide to pick one thing versus another thing, that's considered to be a trade-off. Trade-off is everything you were thinking of doing with your time and resources, but you didn't choose to do that. The economic term is called opportunity cost. What you most likely would have gotten after the one you actually did. So if I have a choice of either studying for an economics test or going out to Sonic for the drinks for happy hour, then I might not get a very good grade. But I lost that opportunity to get a good grade in economics, so therefore that was my opportunity cost. So, when we take a look at what we can do with our choices, we start being able to put together what is called a production possibility graph. And it illustrates for us what our choices are and what they affect, how they affect everything else. So we can show this in a graph form. Now, for example, if the government collects more taxes, right, it's going to affect the amount of money that's available for people to put into their own private businesses, to maybe purchase things in order to create more jobs. And so that is a possibility of something that could be graphed to show that we're making a choice between, are we going to fund the government or are we going to fund private investment. Now, the first productivity graph I want to show you, which is on slide number 9, is just a very simple one that someone had created. I think it was for a literature class, actually, showing Robinson Crusoe on an island. What does he have to do? Well, he can either create, if he spends all of his time gathering food, he can get 4 fish and eat. Or he can take time away from his fishing and get 8 coconuts. But what happens in between? And so we can take a look at this graph and say that, oh, if we go ahead and only go for 4 coconuts, we could probably also get 2 fish. Now, one thing I want to make sure you realize that this is a limit, what you see on that line. Anything to the below that line or to the left of that line is still possible. If he puts all of his effort in, he can get up to 8 coconuts or he can get up to 4 fish. But if he wants to spend some time working on his tan, he can get 2 fish and 2 coconuts, right? So that's just a very simple productivity graph that I found while I was on the internet. Now, one of the more famous productivity graphs that is used often in macroeconomics is guns versus butter. Not sure really which economist came up with it. I've been hearing about it since I was in high school. The idea is that if your economy puts everything into producing military goods, you are going to be taking away from what civilian goods you have. If you put everything into civilian goods, then you're going to not be able to produce the guns, tanks, and everything else that you want in order to supposedly defend your country. When a country is getting ready for war, this is one of the most important graphs that are being considered of what can be the maximum output of an economy. The United States, coming out of the Great Depression and looking at what's going on in Europe, really invested in finding out truly what was the capacity of productivity for the United States using graphs like this in dealing with different raw materials, different factory productivity rates, and things of that nature. So guns versus butter productivity graph is one of the big ideas that macroeconomists have used in order to evaluate the economies. This concludes discussion number 3, productivity, graphs, and opportunity cost. This also concludes the discussions for Chapter 1 for economics, titled What is economics. Thank you.